Welcome back. It's that time again for Hot Takes with Kari and Keelan. This is episode number 32. I am Kari Rae Davis with the Jason Mitchell Group, and Kari sells the city.
And I'm Keelan Harvey with the Harvey Home Team in Highlands Residential Mortgage.
So, Keelan, I thought this was a really important topic for us to hit on this week because it's come up several times in my conversations with buyers recently. What about down payment assistance programs here in Washington? I've come across several clients that are ready to buy a house. You know, they've got great credit score, they make good money, but they just don't have the down payment money, earnest money, or closing cost funds to get into a house. So I wanted to be able to talk about what do people in those situations do? What are some of their options?
Love this. Guys, guess what? You don't need a down payment to buy a house in Washington State. There's Washington State Housing Finance Commission, awesome program, Washington State, in which they will provide 4% for a down payment for you. Now, caveat to that is you likely need some earnest money.
Mhm.
Couple $1,000 is likely what you need. Uh, Not the 4% doesn't necessarily cover, depending on your purchase price, may or may not cover all of your closing costs. You may need a little bit more than a couple $1,000, but also Kari Rae is an incredible negotiator. She could get you some seller credits that can cover majority of expenses there. So you can get in. I've had incidences where people have got in with no money or very, very little money into a home, which is huge.
That is huge because, generally speaking, for anybody out there that's getting ready to purchase a home, you need some skin in the game. You've got to have some cash to throw down in the beginning because nothing in life is free, right? We've got to make sure that, we're able to get things started. So when you're looking at purchasing a home, you've got your down payment, which Keelan and I are going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit further, what that looks like. But then you've also got your earnest money. So your earnest money is the money that you put down in escrow and deposit into the escrow account once you get under contract, you're in mutual agreement on a home. In Washington State, I generally recommend 2 to 3% of the purchase price. So that's the way to put the math towards how much earnest money you're putting down to show how earnest you are in the purchase. And then you do have your closing costs. Now, your closing costs are what you pay at the end of the transaction when we close, basically, and they're title fees, escrow fees, maybe some lender fees. There might be prepaid with taxes. There's going to be an itemized list that the escrow company will give you here in Washington State and letting you know like what all of those fees are going to be. So generally speaking, if you don't have money for closing costs, sometimes we can negotiate that with the seller, or wrap it into the purchase price with the loan. It just depends. But it's really important to have these conversations in the beginning with a great lender like Keelan to, help you understand what do we need help with and to help me understand as your agent, what do we need help with? So that way, when we're negotiating, I can go to the seller and say, hey, we love this home or they're qualified to buy. My buyer's great, but we do need a little help on the back end with closing costs. So those generally are the three things. Now, Keelan, let's go ahead and highlight for people like the different loan programs and how much money you need down and how that 4% can tie into that.
Yeah, so there's a conventional 3% down program, which a lot of people don't realize.
Okay.
And let me make
Which
it
is
really
not much.
simple.
That's pretty low to get into a home, 3%
Low
down.
to get into a home. A lot of people think you need 20% down. For the love of God, please do not save. Don't listen to your Uncle Steve. All right. You don't save
Don't
20%.
wait.
Don't wait. You're killing yourself. I mean, homes appreciate at 5% per year. Compound that over the amount of time that it took you to save 20%. You lost out big time.
Right.
It's the best time to buy real estate is yesterday and today because homes are running away from you as far as purchase prices are concerned.
Right.
So I could only, please don't say you don't need 20% down. Let's just get that on the table here. 3% down is not much. You're right. 3% down. And so to kind of break it down, there's 3% down, call that skin in the game. You're buying down, your some equity into your home. And then there's closing costs, which Kari talked about the closing costs, right? Added to that. So 3% down payment, closing costs, I don't know. They could be all over the board. 6, 10.
It
12,
depends.
depends on how much your home is. You have taxes, you have insurance, we have closing costs, prepaids, all this stuff. Just think
Right.
about a bucket of closing costs, right? Your down payment. That 4% will cover the down payment and a portion of your closing costs, and you'll still have some money that needs to be had left over, which you can get seller credits for. At
Right.
the end of the day, just blanket statement all over that, over the whole thing, the whole subject is basically you only need likely a couple $1,000s to get into a home, possibly. Talk to me. I'll walk through everything. We need to look at your budget. We need to look at all the details. But I've literally had people get into a home with a couple $1,000. And
Right.
that is incredible because you're spending all this money on rent and lighting your money on fire. Do not light your money on fire renting. If you can get into any home, just a starter home, you're gonna change not only your life but your family's life forever.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm so passionate about like how big of a difference it makes. And then you get a lot of people that sit back and go, well, rent is here, my mortgage payment is here. Yeah, but your rent is going to nothing, right?
You're not keeping any of that.
You're not
Like
keeping, you're
you're
lining
paying
somebody
somebody
else's.
else's mortgage.
Exactly. You're lining somebody else's pockets. And in the meantime, you're happy to throw your money away, more money on top of that into a 401k or some type of investment. Why not shift that money, stop the bleeding on your rent money and get into an investment that you can live in and a leveraged investment, right?
Right.
So if you buy a home for 3, 4, 500,000 and you put a couple $1,000s down, your rate of return is ungodly because the home is appreciating at that 3, 4, 500,000 every single year, year after year. You're
Right.
truly growing wealth. So look at it through the correct lens and realize that these are not apples to apples. Like this is life changing, right?
Well, and one thing I want to talk about a little bit more with the down payment assistance program is like, what are the qualifications? So, okay, you get 4% down or 4% towards
Mhm.
your purchase, which can cover most of your down payment and probably some closing costs and whatnot. Um,
Yep.
so what are the requirements? So for you have to be a first time home buyer. Now, I've heard in the past that if you have sold your home and you haven't owned a home in 3 years, like you've been renting or whatnot, you can requalify as a first time home buyer. What are some other qualifications for of the first time home buyer program? What kind of limits are there?
We want to make sure that you have a credit score, right?
Okay.
I mean, think 580. There's some incidences where you can go lower than 580, but we'll just say 580 and above. We'll
Okay.
just start there. Your debt to income ratio, you need to make enough money to be able to pay for the home. And, depending, a lot of times people go FHA loan with Washington State Housing, which means 55% debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So, I mean, pretty high, probably more than you'd want. That's another thing I want to explain to people. You might be shocked at what you're going to qualify for more than you'd want, right? And being previously a financial advisor, it's really important that we discuss where you're comfortable. We don't want you
Right.
to be house broke.
So important.
Yeah, because you're going to qualify for more home than you'd probably want to afford, right? For some, you know what I mean? So we really need to look at that and dive into it. 55% of debt to income ratio. That means that's your gross income. That means more than half of your income is your mortgage. That doesn't include electricity, all the bills, that other bills
All the
that you have,
extras. Yeah.
all the extras. So we got to be cognizant of that. But you know, um, that's what we plan for, and that's why you talk to us.
Right. So now let's talk about, so you get this gift of 4% through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission program. Do you have to pay that money back?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so gift, where it's lent to you, we should say,
Yeah,
right?
okay, it's
I
lent. It's
mean, and
not gifted. That's true because you do have to pay it back. Yeah.
yeah, but it's almost a gift, and I'll go for full circle, so because you're not far off. But they're gonna provide you 4%. Think about it like a second mortgage. It sits there, 0% interest. You're not paying any interest on it. The caveat is if you sell or refinance, you have to pay it back.
Okay.
But it's a beautiful thing because your home's appreciating, right? And as your home's appreciating, you can refinance and pay it back using the appreciation of your home. That's what it was
Right.
designed for. That's what it is. It wasn't your money to begin with. So it sure feels like a gift after you refinance and you were able to get into a home and now you see all this wealth that you created.
Right. Well, and it gives you freedom and flexibility to be able to do what you want. Like when you
Yeah.
own a home and it appreciates in value, you're, building that nest egg. So when it's time to, buy a bigger home or buy property, or you've just had a family and it's time to upgrade, you've got that nest egg to work with. And, it's people are never going to be able to save up enough to get that dream home right out of the gate. Like you've got to start somewhere and you've got to make your money work for you and kind of leapfrog and stepstone into the home that's going to be what you live in forever.
Yeah.
Rarely do I have people buy homes for the first time that is their forever home. Usually there's changes. And, I think, when the market was much more hot, 5 years ago and before, people were moving like every 2 to 3 years just because their house was appreciating so quickly. Now that things have changed a little bit and gotten a little bit more realistic and normalized in our real estate market, houses are appreciating, like you said, about 5% a year, and that people might stay in their homes 5 to 7 years is kind of the time frame that we're looking at right now. So
Yeah, and I mean, do you want to talk about the next layer of like 3% down with seller
yeah,
credit?
so yeah, go ahead.
So Washington State Housing will lend you the 4% if you don't have a couple of $1,000, we'll call it. But how many times, Carrie, have we done, somebody has a little money down, not a ton,
Yep.
right? And let's say you have just the 3% down on whatever you want to purchase. And then again, Kari Rae being a rock star goes and gets seller credits to cover all the closing costs. So literally all you brought in was 3%. We've done
Right.
it so many times.
We have.
So
Yeah.
that's like another entry level that's not crazy. And you got yourself into a home. The benefit of that is with the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, one of the downsides of that program, and I don't even think it's a downside, but it just is what it is. Their interest rate's a little bit higher than what my interest rate would be.
Okay.
I go through them, use their interest rate. We're required to use their deal.
Okay.
And if we can get you to a 3% down on a conventional, which means conventional loan, you kind of want a credit score of low 700s
Okay.
ish around there to go conventional. If you're in that ballpark, I mean, beautiful, because now you're using our interest rate, which means you're going to qualify for a little bit more likely.
Mhm.
And Kari Rae negotiates seller credits. You literally just put 3% down and you're in a home,
Right. Yep.
right?
So really, I feel we want people to understand that you have options. Okay, so you're getting qualified, you've got good credit score, you make good money, and you just don't have the savings set up. That's why we want to have these conversations with you to let you know that there are options. There's not a full stop at that if you don't have any money. There are choices out there, and it's just a matter of being educated and finding the right person to help walk you through the process. So, Keelan, if people want to talk to you about this program or any other loan program, how do they get a hold of you?
Just call me anytime. I'm happy to take your call. 206-321-4941.
And if you're looking to purchase or you're looking to sell, I'm happy to help you as well. You can reach me at 206 330 6985.